Welcome back to Changing America. Have you ever taken time during your lunch break to scroll through listicles? They're fun, right? One quirky GIF after another. But here's the thing. GIFs aren't always the best way to get your message across, especially when it's a serious issue. Too bad no one relayed that message to the House Judiciary Committee, who posted this to their website last week. Are you really using Britney Spears and The Little Mermaid to talk about immigration? Joining me to discuss this tone-deaf move is Hector Sanchez, chair of the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda. Bienvenido. Thank you for joining me.
Maria Teresa.
No, so, Hector, you have been working tirelessly for immigration reform. And then the Republican Party, the House Judiciary, put something up on this that is clearly tone-deaf to the needs of the Latino community. What was your reaction?
It's totally disrespectful. It's disrespectful for the community. It's disrespectful for Congress. It's disrespectful in general. And it's another sign of how they're not really taking immigration seriously. It's a continuation of all these anti-immigrant the elements of conversation. Remember, right now we are under the 5-year anniversary of SB 1070. SB 1070 in Arizona started 5 years ago. Right. A lot of the anti-immigrant conversations.
Well, it legitimized it, right? All of a sudden, it legitimized it because a governor signed into law an immigration law that basically was racial profiling. And this was an extension of that. And I have to say, I was so surprised when I saw this on the House Judiciary Committee. One, because as a former staffer, this is a piece of government. There's supposed to be a sense of seriousness and authority. And to see something that was so flippant, talking about such a sensitive issue, surprised me. But then also the fact that House Judiciary Committee Chair Goodlatte has always been, he seems so sensible when it comes to having conversations on immigration, that I'm surprised that he allowed that to pass mustard. What's your take on it? Well,
he has been a very anti-immigrant voice for a very long time. Remember, he's part of the Three Amigos, some of the most anti-immigrant voices in the nation. So it's, again, it's a continuation of a lot of these anti-immigrant policies, but it's so insensitive.
Yes.
Remember why, in the long term, what happens to the Latino community with all these anti-immigrant pieces of legislation is really affecting not only the immigrant community, but the Latino community overall. Today, we're the most vulnerable workers in the nation. Hate crimes against Latino are increasing 50% in the last 5 years. And we believe that it's totally correlated to all this anti-immigrant messaging that is anti-Latino.
Well, and I think what folks seem to forget is that once the leadership of whether it's a Democratic leader or a Republican leader, once you give a wink that it's okay to do something like this, to basically not take charge, not take the ownership of passing real reform, but instead making light of it, then it kind of gives way for other folks to do the same thing and kind of shrug their shoulders. And I think what you're saying is that folks, unfortunately, don't realize that the majority of Latinos are actually American-born, but because we're not fixing immigration reform, they feel that it's okay for them to all of a sudden treat them as un-American.
Exactly. And we've been having these conversations about the long-term impact of the Latino community of all these anti-immigrant pieces of legislation. What does it say in a state like Alabama after HB 56 that allows your children, schools to ask your children the legal status just because of the way we look, or if you have a strong accent like the one that I have?
You don't have an accent.
Or when you want to rent an apartment and they want to check the legal status, or the fact that I cannot have an undocumented immigrant in my car. This is really affecting the long-term quality of life of the Latino community, and it's increasing unemployment, it's increasing the vulnerability of workers in the nation, and it's increasing poverty. So it's really serious issue for our community.
And I think this is where a lot of the Republicans don't realize that Latinos, we don't live in silos. So what's ever impacting us, we have friends and family and loved ones who may not be Latino who are witnessing what is happening. And so when you poll the Americans in general, you actually find them very sympathetic to passing some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. But then you see something like this on the judiciary website, and you're just like, you guys just don't get it.
I think that's why they really don't come to the table with real solutions. The Senate last year had an important real solution that we negotiated for a long time. But the House, when it's led by very anti-immigrant voices, are not coming to the table. The fact that they are opposing executive action from the president is a mistake. It's a step in the right direction. We want to make sure that they have real solutions. Anti-immigrant policies in the nation is not the way. Enforcement-only policies in the nation is not the way to go. And they need to understand, and especially you you have been a national leader on the issue of the Latino vote. Republicans cannot win a presidential election if they continue with this pattern, if they continue coming to the Latino.
I find that the elders in the Republican Party understand this. So you talk to Mitch McConnell, he understands this. John Boehner understands it. And you look also, even Karl Rove understands that there is no road to the White House. But then you have some folks that basically don't seem to care within the, specifically most within the House Republicans, don't seem to care that they don't have to go, they don't need to be in the White House technically. They we have safe seats, we're gerrymandered in. I kind of like the fact that I can continue my rant against the anti-immigrant stance, and there aren't any consequences.
There have to be consequences.
What are those?
We welcome bipartisan politics. We are non-partisan in the coalition, and we welcome conservative values, and we are welcome to negotiate. I'm very progressive, but we welcome these negotiations and come together to a solution. But the sad reality is that the Republican Party has been taken by a small sector that is very extremist and that is very anti-immigrant, and they have been welcoming those messages. We've been telling them through the work that we do on the ground that it's important that they come to the table with solutions. These attacks on immigrants, these attacks on Latinos, on the long term is going to be bad for them because, you know, the Latino vote keeps increasing. And something that is very interesting is to see the high level of energy that we have seen in the Latino and immigrant community because of all these attacks, the level of unity. Just look at the Dreamers.
Well, and that's what I keep saying. Is like, what they don't realize is that everything from what happened, SB 1070 with Jan Brewer, what happened with Pete Wilson in California back in the mid-'90s, and more recently what's happening right now with a lot of the rhetoric coming at presidential hopefuls is that they're becoming incredible grassroots organizers for the Latino community because they're creating flashpoints, and they're saying, and Latinos, I think, are finally rising and saying, you know what, not on my watch.
They should be very worried. We all know that they cannot win a presidential election without the Latino vote. We are here. We welcome both parties. We welcome people that are creative and that want to move the nation forward, that want to care for the economy, that want to care for labor rights, human rights, and civil rights. So we're here to hit for both parties, but they have to be honest and stay away from all this
Right. Well, and to be smarter, because we speak both English and Spanish, and we're going to find your gifts when you're making fun of us. So thank you so much for joining me today, Hector.
Thank you for the invitation.
Please join us again. Thank you.